Good morning, everybody. Today's proceedings will be live streamed after a 10-minute delay. Those with mobile devices may use them to report what is happening in the hearing, but only after 10 minutes has elapsed since the event that they're reporting. They may not be used for recording or photography. Mr. Barr.
Thank you, sir. Could we start with the Hackney Council workers' demonstration?
We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? I'll try again. Oh, that sounds better.
Yes.
Tab C143, sir, 246885. This is a document dated the 5th of December 1996, an event pro forma, it's dated the 4th, about an event on the 5th. The demonstration is planned for Hackney Town Hall, Mayor Street, and it is said that 200 plus people are anticipated, disorder is likely, and the mood is angry. If we could look at the text, please. I'll give you a moment to refresh your memory, Mr. Jenner.
Okay, yeah.
So you are reporting that there is an industrial dispute going on between Hackney Council and some of its manual labourers about changes to their terms and conditions. Is that fair?
You're correct, yeah.
And you are predicting that there is considerable potential for violence the next day at Hackney Town Hall. Can you help us with what was the basis?
Well, I think it was my assessment based. Firstly, I can't remember where I got this information from. Likely as not, it would have been discussed at the Colin Roach Centre, because that is the sort of core business area that obviously Hackney Council is right in amongst it as far as they're concerned. So we'd have discussed it there. And I think I'm right in saying that some of the members may even have worked for Hackney Council. I'm not 100% sure of that. So there was an interest in there in that respect. But I think the general consensus was at the centre that it would attract other left-wing groups, your mainstream groups, the SWP, militant, etc., on the back of this, and there was a potential for violence. That was my assessment at the time.
The impression one gets is you are painting a picture of it being the workers themselves who are very angry. That's right, isn't it?
Well, I think that, angry in the sense that they had obviously grievances with the council, but the anger wasn't from the workers. I think the threat of violence is from the left-wing groups who were attaching themselves to this event.
Well, what is written is there is speculation among workers and activists that due to the strength of feeling the demonstration has considerable potential for violence. You're reporting both, aren't
yes,
you?
well, as I say, in part, some of that information may have come from some of the workers or people who were employed at the council who were part of the Colin Roach Centre. I can't remember the exact details, but that was the general consensus of it. So, yes, some of the workers may have been involved in that. I don't know. I couldn't say that for sure. But by and large, it was the unknown left-wing groups that would probably be the greater of the risk.
Was there any past history of violence in Hackney Council disputes?
I don't know.
Was there any history of public disorder in Hackney Council disputes?
That, again, I don't know.
It may be a statement of the obvious, but if you are a worker taking industrial action and you cross the line and become violent in a protest at the town hall, you are risking your employment, aren't you?
Absolutely right, yeah, of course.
And that is a strong deterrent to violence.
You would have thought so, yeah.
This intelligence is likely to have been passed up the chain and via TO20 to have gone to the local uniformed police.
That's my understanding. Yes, as I've said previously, this report is one that I haven't written. It's based on the information I provided. Where it's disseminated to, I have no control about that. I can only assume it would go to a public order unit responsible for the Met Police.
That's understood. There's a risk, isn't there, that if a report is unduly alarmist, it could lead to a heavy-handed and counterproductive policing response?
Well, that's speculative, of course, and that's not within my remit. I can only base my intelligence on what I pick up. Other people will make threat assessments on the back of that. I have no control over that.
Might this considerable potential for violence have been unduly alarmist?
Well, that's a matter of opinion, isn't it? I think violence is violence, and it's unacceptable. And if there's a risk of it, then I'm going to be pointing that out. It'd be remiss of me not to.
Were you overstating the risk?
I don't think I was, no.
Can we take that down, please, and have C145 246 905? This is a report and an event performer about the day itself. Thursday, the 5th of December 1996. 150 people turn up. Disorder, none. Mood, angry. If we expand the text, I'll give you a moment to look at that, but I'm particularly interested in the last paragraph.
Okay.
So we can see that what's reported is actually some tension between the SWP and Hackney workers, but there doesn't appear to be any other report of disorder.
No, that's right.
And then concentrating on that final paragraph, the first sentence makes clear that the threat to public order does not, in fact, come from the organised left-wing political agitators. And that's contrary to the answer you gave a moment ago, isn't it?
That's right. This is post-event.
And what had you learnt since then that caused you to report differently?
Well, obviously, the event itself had passed off relatively peacefully. There had been a debrief at the centre about the events of that particular day, which made me revise my assessment of it in the light of events.
And then you go on to say the council manual workers are angry, committed, and have much more to lose than any left-wing activist. As organised strikes, pickets and demonstrations continue, so the possibility of disorder will increase. There is talk among the aggrieved workers about threats to attack councillors, especially those on the Finance Committee, and to attack the Town Hall itself. Were you at this demonstration?
I can't remember if I was, no. But I certainly report. I may well have been, I can't remember that.
Can you recall where you got the information that informed the sentence I've just read out?
That would have been via the Colin Roach Centre. Metcalfe was obviously well connected there. And I think he'd certainly have contacts or workers or people that he knew in the council who were directly involved in this. So it would be a reflection of that.
Had you heard any aggrieved worker utter a threat to attack a councillor?
No, this is all second hand.
Did you make that clear when you reported to the SDS what was going on?
No, I clearly didn't. If it's raised there, no.
Again, looking back, were you overstating the risk?
Not at all. I don't think you can overstate the risk. If there is a risk of violence in any form whereby members of the public or police officers are going to get injured, I don't think it's possible to overstate that.
Were any councillors attacked?
That I don't know.
Was the town hall itself attacked?
I don't know.
Can we take that down now, please, and go to tab C159? That is an MPS number 40185. We're moving now to a nominal pro forma dated the 28th of February 1997. This is about an individual. If we expand the text at the bottom, please, about whom it is said that they are a good friend of Mark Metcalfe and keep him and the Colin Roach Centre informed of the situation with Sinn Féin in Ireland. The person was a contributor to the CRC magazine RPM. That was, however, until he was arrested by the RUC and held at Castlereagh for a week in connection with the Manchester bombing in 1996. Metcalfe has tried repeatedly to contact the person since learning of release, but has been told that he has disappeared. Metcalfe is sufficiently concerned for the welfare of his friend that he is considering a trip to the province to speak to the person's family. Mm-hmm. Presumably you're aware of who we're talking about here.
I'm not actually, no.
Right. We'll get that for you if that is not to hand, and I will come back to that. Can we take that down now and have from tab B 40 247 160? This is the SDS annual report for 1996 to 1997. Could we have page 9, please? And at section 9, on page 9, we have the section community-based groups. If we look at 9.2, please. Give you a moment to read that. The sentence I want to ask you about is the one which reads, SDS operations continue to provide intelligence of the aims and intentions of the IWCA, which will enable appropriate measures to be taken to preserve public order and to prevent undue damage to police-community relations. Can you help us with what is meant by preventing undue damage to police-community relations?
Well, we're in the same situation as this is an end-of-year report as the one that I looked at yesterday. I hadn't seen this before. This is a management overview, and I had no input into it or the language that was used there. That's a question for management.
do you have any independent understanding of how your reporting on the IWCA would prevent damage to police-community relations?
Well, yes, I have an opinion of it, if you want me to give it. And in relation to that, the only thing I can think of would be the IWCA with AFA, Red Action, etc., wanted to go and leaflet, promote themselves around various estates around London. Now, some of these estates, yes, they were, as I've mentioned yesterday, were quite, you know, let's say a hotbed of BNP, but certainly in places like Bermondsey, where it was, they had a lot of right-wing support down there. But also there were other estates where there were different communities, much more diverse communities. And the thing with that is, IWCA and Red Action, for that matter, you look at groups of people dressed like they dressed very similar to right-wing activists on the street, very similar looks, very similar hairstyles, etc., etc. To have those people going, albeit with good intention, into some of these estates where there were sensitivities around racial attacks, may be perceived wrongly to have been something from the right wing. So I can only assume it was in something in relation to that, which inadvertently could provoke community tension, which wasn't the intention of the organisation.
That's a public order reason, which
Yes.
is the first reason given in the report. But in terms of the police's standing within the community, can I take it you can't help with that?
I can't help you with that, I'm afraid, no.
Can we take that down now, please? Can we go back to C159? That's the MPS number 40185. I'm going to have passed up first to the chairman and then to you the name, and then to your legal representatives the name of the person whose privacy we're protecting. Now that you've been reminded as to who that is, Mr. Metcalfe's evidence was that this person's brother was killed by a plastic bullet. Are you in a position to agree or disagree with that?
No, I'm not.
Mr. Metcalfe's evidence was that this person was not informing him and the Colin Roach Centre of the situation with Sinn Féin in Ireland. Are you in a position to agree or disagree with that?
Well, I'm not in a position to either got this information directly from Metcalfe himself, then no, I can't obviously comment on his stance on that, no.
Our understanding is that no one has been brought to justice for the bombing in Manchester. Are you able to help us with whether or not this gentleman was ever charged?
I've no idea. I didn't even know. You showed me the name and it doesn't ring a bell now. It's not something I'm aware of.
And presumably you can't help us then as to whether anyone was convicted?
I'm afraid not, no.
If we could take that down now and move to the topic of how best to screw up Kurt's life. That's at tab B37, 247048. This is an internal SDS note signed by JW. Is that John Webb?
I would imagine so, yes, at that time.
There's his initials at the bottom.
Yes.
8th of April 1997. It's headed Operation LFUPC. And if we could look first at paragraph 1. Meeting today, 8th of April, with Keith Edmondson, John Webb, temporary nominal 19, acting DCI, and DISE area liaison. Ray, how best to screw up Kurt's life? We outlined the Kurt case to date for the anonymous person's benefit and went on to describe AFA plans for BNP candidates and dissenters over the next 2 weeks, as told by Mark Jenner. The person we are calling Kurt was the person that you had some encounters with close to your real home in Southwark.
That's right, yes.
And ultimately you had to go through with your family an enforced move because of the risk of compromise that Kurt's presence in the area generated.
Correct.
Were you aware of a plan to screw up Kurt's life?
That's the first time I've ever seen that.
Could we zoom out, please, and have 2 and 3 up?
Okay.
And having read those paragraphs, the natural meaning to us appears to be that despite the dramatic start to this note, what is being proposed is a strategy to see if there is evidence of any past criminal offending by Kurt and surveillance to see if there is any violent behaviour by him in the offing. In other words, to investigate him criminally.
It would appear so, yeah.
Were you aware of that?
No, I wasn't.
It talks at paragraph 2 of the SDS objective to getting Kurt out of the equation was explained. And then the SO12 objectives in pursuing Kurt were discussed and agreed to be the arrest and prosecution of a dangerous criminal. The SDS objective, if that wasn't the same as SO12s, which were bringing him to justice, was it to get him out of your way?
I've absolutely no idea.
Was there any discussion with managers that they were going to see if Kurt could be got out of the way?
No, not at all. I mean, I'm not. You'd have to remind me of when I first reported that compromise. I'm assuming this must have been after that.
Well, I'm asking you what your recollection is.
Well, as regards to this, I say I've never seen this document before, and I was not aware of the contents or made aware of the contents at the time. I'm sure I would have remembered, but I wasn't.
I see. And are you able to help us with whether the plan led to Kurt's conviction?
I've no idea.
Could we look at paragraph 4, please? Give you a moment to refresh your memory about that.
Okay, yeah.
I appreciate the answers you've just given me, but the significance of this appears to be that the SDS were going to be kept in the loop and involved in the liaison between TN19 and the Detective Inspector Southeast Area liaison. Were you aware of any of that?
None at all, no.
Can we take that down now, please? And can we go to tab C177? That's an MPS number 40352. We're back now to the Republican Forum. This is the 10th of May, 1997. And if we could just have up the first three paragraphs, please. I'll let you read those. The question is going to be about the third paragraph, though.
Okay.
And the third paragraph, the speaker, who we can see from the paragraphs above, has been speaking out strongly against Sinn Féin's stance in relation to the general election, is asserting that it was the Irish National Liberation Army who were prepared to kill policemen in order to protect Catholic working class communities. Were you at that meeting?
Yes, I was.
And is that a fair representation of the sort of assertion that was being made by
Yes, it is.
Mr. McQuillan at that? And the special branch assessment was that the Irish Republican Socialist Party had close connections with the Irish National Liberation Army. Is that right?
That's correct, yes.
Could we go to page 3 now? And the top paragraph, first of all. Give you a moment to read that.
Okay.
It reads as if there was a dramatic development during the course of the meeting, namely that the Irish National Liberation Army claimed responsibility for the murder of a police officer the night before
Apparently so, yeah.
in Northern Ireland,
Correct.
and that the press had turned up seeking an interview.
Yes.
Could we go to the next paragraph? Are you able to help us with the nature of interviews that Mr. McQuillan gave on that evening?
No, I'm not.
And would it be fair to say that there was absolutely nothing secret about Mr. McQuillan's position in relation to the Irish National Liberation Army's actions?
No, none at all.
Could we now look at paragraph 3 to 5 on that page? I'll let you read them, but the question is going to be about what this intelligence contributed to the intelligence picture.
Okay.
what was the contribution of this information to the general intelligence picture about insofar as it was relevant to terrorism?
It was completely relevant, given the high profile of McQuillan and his entourage. There was no question about his terrorist credentials in that respect. I was in a position to give as much information as I could on that entourage coming to London and the various other people that I've described here. That's important that that is recorded, because at some stage that may corroborate with other intelligence from MI5 or from whoever on that particular day. So that was very, very important that those things are recorded. And yes, that's completely the reason why it was done in that way.
Would it be a fair summation to describe it as contributing to the general intelligence picture about the IRSP, but of no obvious immediate value?
Not any immediate value, but an intelligence is a slow burner anyway.
Can we take that down now, please? Can we move now to what I'm going to call Jamie's plot? Tab B42 247193. This is a note for file. Again, it appears to be being produced by John Webb. It's dated the 25th of July, 1997. If we could have up the first two paragraphs, please.
Okay, yeah.
The first paragraph may help with the question you asked me a little while ago. We were looking at a document from April 1997 about Kurt. We can see now that plans for the move were well afoot by July. Would it follow then that your problems with Kurt were live back in the spring?
Again, I can't remember the actual dates, I'm afraid.
On to the second paragraph and your contact with Jamie. Is the second paragraph a factually accurate summation of what had happened?
Yes, it is. I think it was as if planning a murder makes it sound very dramatic. I think what this report is saying here is that it was taken as serious as that, which was quite unusual, but that is an accurate summation of what happened.
So you understand you are being approached to join a small group of people to conspire to commit serious criminal offences?
Possibly, yes.
Can we move on to the third paragraph, please? Jamie is reported as raising the subject again at the London AFA organisers meeting on the 23rd of July, giving no clues as to the nature of the task, but saying there was going to be a meeting. If we then look at if we zoom out and have the last two paragraphs, the last two large paragraphs. Give you a moment to read those.
Yeah, okay.
Is the second of those paragraphs an accurate summation of the speculation that passed in that meeting between you and your managers about what sort of offending might be in the offing?
I can't say. I mean, in the second paragraph there, those various venues which were potential targets, that wasn't something which I had generated. I think they were looking around what could this possibly be. I can't remember that actual meeting itself. It did occur to me that this was obviously the office were quite concerned about the ramifications of this because it is what it appeared to be as I reported it initially. But I did think a part of this is this some kind of setup to smoke out an informant. That was in the back of my mind as well.
And how would an informant be smoked out?
Well, because you get all this this information. It wasn't just me. There was a group of people as well, and if that leaked out somewhere or someone got to be made aware of that, then obviously there was a leak within that 5. That's how I imagined it could have played out. But again, that's pure speculation on my part.
I'd like you to put yourself back into your mindset at the time that these events were happening, and without any hindsight in the light of what actually happened. If you had been shown those odds when this document was created, would you have agreed with those?
Shown those what, sorry?
Odds. You see, each of the potential actions has odds by them.
Would I have still gone ahead with it?
No, would you have agreed? Are these the sorts of targets?
Yes, I see what you mean. No, I think they are pretty good estimates.
The last sentence, whatever the purpose of the plot, HN15 will need to be confident that the long-term SDS policy of never giving evidence will hold. What discussions did you have with your managers at this stage about that issue?
I don't remember them discussing that issue at all. If they did, then I don't recall it, but that wouldn't have been, for me personally, an issue anyway.
Were you given any advice as to how you should behave in relation to this apparent conspiracy?
Just never break cover.
Can we take that down now and go to tab B44, 247-200? And can we, I'll orientate it first. This is dated the 5th of August 1997. It's about a meeting on Thursday, the 31st of July 1997. It says that you went to a meeting on that day where you met the rest of the group of 5. And it names people we are calling Harold, Jamie, Clive, someone we're not naming at all, and you. Could we then have the text blown up, please?
Okay.
Can you help us with where that meeting took place?
Yes, I can. It was in the work premises of an associate of Red Action. Should I now see if there's names on the list? Right?
Yes, or if it's not on the list, if it's anonymised, you can just write it down.
Okay, I'll just see if it's on the list. Yeah, he's known as Clive.
That's okay. We can just use the word Clive, the pseudonym Clive.
Yeah.
Can you, first of all, confirm, is this an accurate summation of what happened, or are there any inaccuracies that have crept in?
No, I mean, again, it is a summary of what I said, but it is accurate, as far as it goes, definitely.
And so, what was actually agreed at this meeting?
At the time, it was, as I recall it, it was a meeting of people. We would know the group of people who were there. I'm sure there were more than 5. But that was it. It was just, we would be told in due course what we'd need to do. We wouldn't know, and as I've said there, we wouldn't know what that particular target was, and we'd been particularly selected for this job, or whatever it was. And that was pretty much it. There was no actual firm direction as to where this may go, other than it was something worthy of the secrecy that would seem to surround it.
But is it fair to say that there was no doubt that this small group of people were meeting in tight secrecy in order to prepare to become a group who would commit serious criminal offences?
That was my understanding of it, yes.
And we've obviously had to gist the particulars, but the words assault, burglary and robbery, do they give a fair summation of the level of criminality that was being posited?
I think this is a roundup by, I'm supposed John Webb has written this, but yes, amongst those who knew, I certainly didn't know, but certainly those 3 offences would spring to mind. Others as well. I don't know. That's just speculative.
And in terms of conversations with your managers, if we look at what it says below, no action will be undertaken by the group before September, that HM15 has been invited to join the action group, which is undeniably a heavy team, speaks volumes about his credibility in the field. Dealing with the product of his involvement will be difficult. What discussions did you have with your managers about how you should behave in relation to this group going forward?
Just go with it. That's all. Just go with it. At that stage, as I say, this is aspirational. This is what may happen. But at that stage, nothing had happened. But essentially, maintain cover and go with it. Simple as that.
Did you speak to Bob Lambert about this? Or did he speak to you?
I don't remember. I think if Bob was still the DI there, but he never had a great insight into Irish matters. His previous history was outside of the B Squad realm, whereas John did. He was the sort of expert, but he had a better insight into this sort of thing.
What I'm driving at is whether Mr. Lambert gave you to understand at any point that he was familiar with operating undercover within a criminal conspiracy.
No.
Can we take that down now, please? Can you help us? Did this group actually go on to commit any offences?
No, they didn't.
What happened?
Well, I have to say nothing. Which again immediately aroused my suspicions. Was this just an intelligence red herring to smoke out any informants?
The document we were just looking at was 31st of July 1997. How long did it take for that to play out, for it to become clear that it was a damp squib?
I can't say. It was months. We didn't know, because the whole nature of that was that we'd be informed when we needed to be told. So that was like an open-ended arrangement, really. There was no actual end to it. It just didn't happen.
So I'm understanding from your answer, for a period of months at least afterwards, you thought something might happen, but in the event it didn't.
Correct, yeah.
Can we now go to the question of Amsterdam? The there are various references in the documents to Amsterdam. Can you help us? First of all, was there ever a CRC trip to Amsterdam?
What, as in an official delegation?
Yes.
No, there wasn't.
Did you go with Alison and 2 friends to Amsterdam on the 28th of November 1997 for a short break?
Well, I certainly went, so I couldn't give you the exact dates, but yes, that's true.
And again, between the 5th and the 7th of March 1999 with Alison?
Yes.
Could we have up, please, tab B46, 527802? And if we could have that expanded, please. This is dated the 16th of October 97, and it's from DCI HN 58. Authority is sought for touchy subject, and we know that's you, and DI Lambert to travel to Amsterdam for the purpose and duration set out at 1A. If approved, the memorandum at 1B should be signed to enable F14 to make the necessary travel arrangements. Can you recall the circumstances in which this document came to be generated?
Well, no, I've obviously mentioned this to, I don't know if I mentioned I was going there with Bob directly or not, but I think at that particular, looking at that, obviously Bob quite fancied a jolly over there, but I never saw this, and I don't think I sought, or did I seek authority to travel abroad? Probably not, but it looks like on this case I would have mentioned it to, perhaps it was to Bob, who then put it up so we could get a ride on the back of it.
When you say mentioned it to Bob, it being in fact the trip with Alison and 2 other people, yes. Which we think occurred a month later in November. Did D.I. Lambert get the jolly you say he wanted to Amsterdam?
I honestly don't know. I certainly never saw him when I was over there.
When you went in May 1999, did anybody from the SDS travel to keep Overwatch?
No. I think, in these sort of situations, unless it was a political event or something like that, this was just maintaining cover, so I didn't even mention it to the office.
But you've obviously mentioned something about it.
Yeah, well, I've mentioned it to Bob. I wouldn't have seen... I don't think ordinarily they'd given me authority to do that, but I mentioned it there, obviously, to Bob, that I was going there, and he's gone on the back of it. But ordinarily, no, I wouldn't have bothered.
Can we take that down now, but can we stay with the topic of Amsterdam? We have heard evidence of 2 SDS trips to Amsterdam. Did you go on either or both of those?
I certainly remember one, which was a colleague's leaving do.
Can you remember approximately when that was?
Well, I'd have to look and see who the person was and when he retired, so off the top of my head I can't. I'll see who he is on the list, and that'll give me an idea of when that particular event was. Hold on.
If it's an anonymous person, please don't say the nominal.
Don't worry. Can I just write his name down? I can't see it on there.
Please. Thank you. On this trip, then, was this a trip well attended by members of the SDS?
Yeah, I think it was, yeah.
When you were in Amsterdam, did you take any substances which would be controlled in this country but were not controlled in Amsterdam?
Yes.
Did any of your colleagues?
Probably, yeah. I can't, don't ask me who, I don't know, but yes, well, it wasn't alone, it was Amsterdam. Yeah.
And how not alone were you? Was it the odd colleague or lots of your colleagues?
Well, we moved around, it was a big group, obviously it was a celebration sort of thing like that, so there was a lot of drinking and visiting bars, etc. So I couldn't identify, but I certainly did, yeah.
And at least some of your other colleagues did?
Yes, I mean, I can't say that somebody must have done. I can't say for sure now. But yes, I'm assuming they would have done.
Are you seeking to spare their blushes?
Not at all. Why would I? I'm happy to admit it. There's no problem with that.
Was there any management restriction on doing that?
No.
Were any of your managers participating in that?
Not that I saw, no.
Were you in their presence?
All the time?
No, when you were taking substances that would be controlled in this country.
I can't remember, no. I can't remember.
Might have been.
Possibly, yeah. And I don't think they'd have said anything anyway, quite honestly.
Sex workers. Did, to your knowledge, you or any other member of your party use the services of sex workers?
No.
Did your party visit the red light district?
Yes.
Can you help us with what sort of things the party did in the red light district?
Mainly window shopping, I think. It was just looking around the red light district. Somebody may have gone to a show, I can't remember. I didn't, but I can't remember.
Somebody may have gone to a show on their own or with other members of the SDS?
I don't know, because we split up into the small groups, so I don't know. I mean, they could speculate, but well, why wouldn't they?
And was this general behaviour known by management?
Yes.
Any guidance about that?
No, none at all.
Can we now have up MPS 40515, please? This is a document about a then forthcoming BNP rally due to be held on the 6th of September 1997 in Stepney. I'll give you a moment if we expand the text to remind yourself of the content, but I'm interested in particular in the bottom paragraph.
Okay, yeah.
I'm understanding this to be forthcoming BNP demonstration in Stepney, full AFA call out, but in order to avoid the risk of being corralled by police, you're reporting that direct attacks on the BNP are likely to take place after the event.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Were you at the meeting which discussed this?
Yes.
Can you help us with the terms in which tactics at the event were discussed?
Well, I think initially the fact that the AFO were contacted by Searchlight, they weren't trusted particularly. It was, they'd have to verify that. But the fact that they had been in touch, it had to be looked at. And so that's why I've said later on there that it had to be corroborated by their own sources to make sure that this wasn't just a bogus call out. Let's see. And of course, once if Searchlight have this information, their go-to anti-fascist port of call, it wouldn't normally be AFA, I have to say. It would certainly be the SWP. And with that, of course, there'd be, as I've mentioned, Islington Arafa, which I did know one of the people involved with that. It was a small offshoot organisation. But essentially, the ANL and the SWP and the Socialist Party, they had their own sort of they were organising a counter demonstration, as I said. But tactically, what tended to happen in those situations was the police would be informed. Searchlight would always inform the police of these concerns, and then there would be a thing. So the police would be there, and very helpfully, as far as the ANL were concerned, they corral them safely behind the police line so they could safely demonstrate against any right-wing demonstrators at the time without getting hurt themselves. That was a general sort of tactic, and AFA's consensus around that. But in this case, obviously, if there was going to be MP personnel, which I can't imagine there would have been, however, then attacks would have been carried out away from the main demonstration.
Was that something you were assuming, or was that something that was expressly discussed?
And that was expressly discussed. That was common policy in that respect.
Why wasn't Searchlight trusted? And when you say they weren't trusted, could you clarify in answering who it was that didn't trust them?
I think, well, certainly, as I said there, the AFA hierarchy and most of the people I knew in redaction kept them at arm's length, because I think they were willingly, they'd speak to the police, they'd speak to the press, and they had a certain agenda exposing the fascism, and they did a good job of it professionally, but they had too many other issues where their security wasn't considered to be good enough to risk direct action on the back of their intelligence.
Did you attend the actual event in Stepney on Saturday, the 6th of September?
I think I must have done, yes. Yeah.
We can take the document down now, please. Can you help us with what happened?
I'm sorry, I'm waiting for it.
There's no document. What happened on the day?
I don't. As far as I can recall, there was the planned demonstration there. The police there, the ANL were there, and AFA turned up. But I don't think there were any. I don't recall seeing any BNP people around that area at that time.
So it was actually a non-event?
It was a non-event. As far as I can recall, yeah, it was a non-event, which certainly then sort of cemented the sort of doubts about Searchlight Intelligence in the first place.
Could we have up C188, which is an MPS number 40542? This is a report about information obtained apparently by you on the 13th of September 1997, written up on the 15th and 16th of September. If we have the 3 paragraphs of text expanded, please, I'll let you refresh your memory.
Okay, yeah.
It's the 3rd paragraph that I'm particularly interested in, and you are reporting a U-turn on current policy and a decision to institute a number of attacks on right-wing activists, which you say will be done by a small team of trusted activists with no publicity. Were you at, how did you get this intelligence?
From Harold himself.
In company where this was being discussed?
It would have been, yes. Yes.
And there's a suggestion that even within the AFA, this action isn't going to be widely broadcast. Why was that?
Where are we looking at here? Which part are you referring to there with that question?
Well, it says, it's the third line of paragraph 3. These will be done by a small team of trusted activists and will be given no publicity, brackets, even within AFA, close brackets, in the hope that such tactics will bring a response from the dormant extreme right, sufficient to retain the interest of rank-and-file AFA members.
Yes.
So the picture that is being painted is that a subset of AFA are plotting to physically attack people on the right wing in order to provoke a response and maintain the interest of people who wish to be violent. Is that a fair inference from what you're reporting?
Yes, it was. It's aspiration, I would say.
Can you help us then? What actually happened?
Well, the problem with all of this is, as I say, it is an aspirational thing. It was important for AFA to have to keep the activists active, and of course they're the most motivated when they've got an opposition to fight, and that was lacking considerably on the ground at that particular time. So if they get bored, some of the less sort of politicised members of APA, they'll just lose interest and the group will diminish. There was, and certainly the sort of Red Action continued. Remember, they'd been together, for decades at this point. They were looking at a younger, less well-known, trusted part of the AFA setup, really to provoke something, to get, to really stoke up the fire, really. They knew that the fascism did exist out there. It was finding it. And once it was found and attacked, as was their policy, then that would spark the interest of, or keep the interest going, of rank-and-file AFA members.
Were they found and attacked?
No, I think that was half the problem was they were pretty dormant in London.
And am I right to understand that Harold was the driving force behind this?
He was the driving force behind everything.
Can we take that down now, please? And can we go to the topic of Peter Francis's leaving party, which we understand took place on the 27th of September 1997. Did you attend that?
Remind me where it was.
I wasn't there.
Right. No, I thought you had information as to where it was. If it was a leaving do, generally speaking, yes, I would have gone, but I can't remember it specifically. But if I knew where it was, I'd be reminded. Yeah.
Can you recall at about this time whether there had been any rumours about Peter Francis's exfiltration and how it had been conducted by him?
There were rumours, yes.
Can you help us as to what the rumours were?
I think, if I remember rightly, there was rumours that he'd gone rogue, basically. He hadn't stuck to his plan. He'd driven a car to France, which he didn't have authority for. He'd set fire to that car, which caused all sorts of problems, I think, for the office. That was it. Whether that was true or not, I don't know. I've got no to back that up, but that was the story that we were concerned with at the time.
By the time of the leaving do, was that all water under the bridge?
No, because I can't remember the cart and horse thing here. I don't know where the rumours were after that, after he'd gone, or the leaving do. Sometimes they happen just before people finished. I don't know when the time frame was for that, so I couldn't answer that.
Can you recall whether there were any actual ramifications arising from the rumoured behaviour?
Actions in terms of management, no. But I'd already flagged up my concerns about Francis prior to this anyway, so I wasn't surprised by that.
What concerns had you flagged up about Mr. Francis?
He was a troublemaker.
In what sense was he a troublemaker?
He was himself and another colleague in the office, as far as I could see, and I witnessed this myself, was trying to set up another colleague to have violence done to them, which was completely out of order. And I expressed this to the management in no uncertain terms, as this was not on. And I just felt he was a wrong'un back then.
Can we move now to the question of David Irvine's visit to the Irish History Society, the University of North London? Could we have up, please, tab C198? It's an MPS number 40670. This is a document that is based on intelligence obtained from you on the 10th of November 1997 about a then forthcoming meeting on the 20th of November. If we could have the text including the source comment expanded, please.
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
The source comment: the number of people who attend will determine the level of action, but the primary aim will be to humiliate, threaten David Irvine and by association Billy Hutchinson and the PUP. Can you help us with the basis for the opinion that the aim would be to humiliate and threaten?
Yes, on this particular occasion, the slight backstory to this was that Metcalfe and Headley had, Metcalfe in particular was obsessed with the actions or alleged actions of Billy Hutchinson over in Northern Ireland, where he allegedly assaulted a female or something like that when he was in the UVF. Obviously, David Irvine was a former member of the UVF. But these sort of insults, these two people, Metcalfe and Headley, became obsessed with this to the extent that, they were made a massive issue, thinking, what on earth has this got to do with the Colin Roach Centre? But that was the issue that they wanted to address, this whole damnation of Billy Hutchinson for some unknown reason. But then that was very much a characteristic of both of them, because they published another document which is related to this, accusing, I think they accused militant Labour's flirtation with fascism. So they like to be provocative in their own sort of, well, I think it was a childish way. So that was the background to this. It was their own sort of justification, really, for walking up and threatening / humiliating Mr. Irvine.
Was anything said specifically about how it was intended to do that?
No, I think it was basically confront him before he went into the building.
And can we take it from the paragraph immediately above source comment, which reads, the RSF will be approached to see if they would be willing to print any photos from this action in their newspaper, that it wasn't proposed to do anything criminal?
I think that was, again, Metcalfe was keen to get this published by somebody, and I think he thought the RSF would be only too willing to do this. I don't think anything ever came of that, though.
But my question was, can we take it from the fact that people had in mind getting media coverage that the severity of humiliation or threatening behaviour was going to be such that it would not pass any threshold for criminal conduct?
Again, yes, possibly, but it depends on the extent to which it's done. He was an experienced politician, so he expected some abuse, but how far they were prepared to go with that, I didn't know at that point.
Can we take that down and go to tab C101, again an MPS number 40695. We're moving forward to a 24th of November 1997 report about the talk on the 20th of November 1997. I'll ask you first of all to look at the first two paragraphs of text on that page.
Yeah, okay.
Were you there?
I was, yeah.
And is that an accurate summation of what happened?
Yes, it is.
Can you help us in your own words to describe the scene?
It was a small picket. We're looking at maximum half a dozen people. And I think when Mr. Irvine and his bodyguard appeared, they'd been down the road quite casually walking into the venue, they sort of got into his face and started, sort of shouting at him. But he went through the door. He was ushered in through the door by his bodyguard. But then, to his credit, he came back out and tried to speak to to Headley and Metcalfe in particular, tried to reason with him.
What happened when he did that?
It completely took the wind out of their sails, I have to say. He was a very impressive politician in that respect.
And so, in terms of the conduct that was directed against Mr. Irvine, what precisely did it involve?
Shouting, obviously accusing him of colluding in the murders, and Billy Hutchinson in particular and his alleged activities. It was pretty monosyllabic in that sense, but there was he wasn't punched, or they got close to him. There was a jostle. Is quite a reasonable explanation. It was nothing more than that.
Jostle and a frank exchange of views verbally.
Yeah, I think you could say that politely. Yes,
exchange may be the wrong word.
Yes,
frank expression of views.
Yes, but I think certainly if there was to be a winner there, it would certainly be Mr. Irvine.
Can we go now to page 2 and the top paragraph? Groups who had at best been expecting only to disrupt the meeting by vigorous questioning, the total disregard for personal security displayed by Irvine, and the subsequent panic arrangements made by the university, that being to hold the meeting in private, could easily have led to a disorder situation. The feeling of the IRSP, CRC and Red Action is that should Irvine ever return to Holloway and displays the same arrogant disregard for both personal security and political insensitivity, then plans will be made for a physical attack. Can you help us, please, to explore that in a little bit more detail? What exactly were people you were listening to saying about the evening and the future?
This is Metcalfe and that small group of people, and subsequently I think I'd spoke to people in Red Action as well. I think this particular perspective is really the Metcalfe, Headley. They'd been humiliated, I think it'd be fair to say. So this was, if he ever comes back, we're really going to do something about it. It was that sense of thing, because, as I said previously, they'd had the wind taken right out of the sails by Mr. Irvine. So again, aspirational, I would say, and sour grapes.
Hot air?
Yeah, I would say so, yeah.
Did Mr. Irvine come back during your tenure as an undercover officer?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Can we take that down now, please? Can we have up from tab C205 an MPS number 40728? This is a document which was, the intelligence is dated the 8th of December, typed up on the 9th. I'll ask for the text to be expanded so you can refresh your memory.
Okay, yeah.
So you seem to be expressing an opinion in line about the IWCA in line with your evidence yesterday, namely as a group it was of little interest itself from a public order point of view because it was involved in mainstream local issues. Is that fair?
Yes, that's fair enough, yeah.
But then it goes on to, as I understand it, talk about Red Action, your views of Red Action and AFA, and discussions of Dublin-style street justice, including the use of hurling sticks. Can you help us explore that a little bit? What precisely was it being proposed would be done?
Again, this is obviously discussion with Red Action, but that was a common practice by in Republican communities. I think the story here is it was specifically mentioned Dublin, but where it was basically, as it says there, vigilante, particularly around drugs, would be dealt with by concerned citizens, organised concerned citizens, and that seemed to be a good way of dealing with that. So you essentially, as I read it, if you're involved in a community, yes, you get as a local candidate, you got to clean up your community. So get rid of drugs, get rid of fascists, and they were well equipped to do that.
You've given evidence about the fascists before, so I'd like to concentrate here on the question of drugs and other antisocial behaviour. Did, during the course of your deployment, AFA or Red Action ever seek to mete out street justice?
Not in my time, no.
Any use of hurling sticks?
No. There were no hurling sticks in that part of London, as far as I was aware.
So again, fighting talk, but no action.
Yeah, but I think that it was more the principle of it. There was a blueprint over in the Republic and Northern Ireland, and I think they were thinking in terms of a similar type of fit over here.
Could we take that down now, please? Can we have up from C208 an MPS number 40781, please? This is a report, 19th of January 1998, said to be based on your intelligence. Could we have the text, including the comments, expanded, please? This is about the person we are calling Noah.
Yeah, okay.
Can we take it that the source comment is your assessment of Noah?
Yes.
And the handler's comment would be somebody from management?
Yes.
The handler's comment, Noah's occupation further strengthens Red Action access to a wide range of outlets that could provide excellent logistical support for the provisional IRA. Can I take it from your answers yesterday that, to the best of your knowledge, Noah never actually provided any such support?
No, I wasn't aware of that at the time, no.
Did Noah ever say or do anything to you that indicated that he intended to do so?
No, he didn't.
Or would be prepared to?
No, he didn't, no.
Could we take that down now, please? Can we have up from tab B45 749473, please? Could we have page 20? And could we expand it? Thank you. This is a document dated January 1998, and it is said to be a record of a strategy meeting with you. You'll see from the first paragraph that it says that you attended a meeting with DCI HN58, DI Lambert, DS War and DS Tiddy to discuss the state of your current operation and a targeting strategy for the coming year. Do you recall that meeting?
I don't, but they had a lot of these meetings, but not that one specifically. But
if we look at the third paragraph first of all, and it's reported there that you had recently spoken to Jamie and been asked to purchase blackout material for a vehicle. You'd done that, but were none the wiser as to who or what any possible targets are. Can you help us with whether Jamie in fact said anything to you about why he wanted you to purchase blackout material?
no. I think this is all linked, I think, to the what we were talking about earlier with that meeting of trusted associates. So you're asked to do something, you do it, and you don't ask questions. Simple as that.
So that meeting was the end of July. So here we are. It said that in January, recently you'd been asked to purchase blackout material. Did you understand it to be the purposes of the group of conspirators, if I call them that, or was it unclear whether it was even for the purposes of that?
I made the assumption it was due to that because of there's no sort of context for doing this. So that was only my assumption at the time.
Can we go to the fourth paragraph, please? Of concern to HN15 was his time in the field and the length of time he would need to begin his withdrawal strategy. After careful consideration and full consultation with HN15 and the support staff, DCI HN58 indicated that he would be applying for a year's extension for HN15. This then negated the need for the commencement of any disengagement. Can you help us as to the conversation that led up to the decision to apply for a year's extension to your deployment?
It was something that you didn't ask for it. Because originally, when you joined, as you'll be aware, that it was 4 years, that's what we were told, with a possibility of an extension, really dependent upon the value of the intelligence you were giving, whether it was still needed, etc., etc. So they would, if they thought that it was worth asking you for another year, that's what they do. And this was the case here.
It says, of concern to you was your time in the field. What concerns had you ventilated?
I think at the time, because I was covering so many different groups and areas, and the more groups I covered, I didn't just drop one and go to another one. These were all simultaneously. That was a lot of disengagement. So I was concerned that this is going to take some doing.
Was the fact you were enjoying a relationship with Alison anything to do with your desire to extend your deployment?
Not at all, no.
What influence did your ongoing relationship with Alison have on your views as to the length of your deployment?
It didn't come into it at all. That was something which, I was perfectly aware that if I was finishing in 4 years, then that would be the end of it. There was no, I've got to stay on for a little bit longer because I wanted to see her. That's nonsense. No, that wasn't a factor at all.
Is it fair to characterise your deployment by this stage as certainly beginning to shift in earnest to AFA and Red Action over the CRC?
Yes, that's true. And I did look for, this is the one thing I did look for direction from the office. I did say, look, I am spreading myself quite thinly here. And I need some sort of indication of what actual direction you want to take me in. That was another concern.
And what was the answer?
Carry on with the sort of the Red Action stuff, really. I mean, they wanted everything. They were never going to say, oh, don't do this or don't that. But the focus was where I was heading, basically.
coming at it from another direction, why were you still involved with the CRC at this stage?
I think at that sort of late stage, and I think involvement, I don't think that they were holding meetings much. But I was in touch with Metcalfe. You know, he was a contact. We go out for a drink together. Even after I'd sort of moved over to Red Action, we were still friends. We lived very close to each other, and you know, we'd go for a drink regularly. That wouldn't change.
Can you help me? To what extent were you keeping in touch with Metcalfe because you were his friend, and to what extent because you were an undercover police officer looking for information?
Oh, both. Yeah, friends are not real in the SDS world.
Could we have the last paragraph expanded, please? In a general sense, HN15 expressed satisfaction with his living arrangements and vehicle. His wife and children have moved into a new house and have settled in extremely well. Presumably, Sergeant Tiddy, who wrote this, had a conversation with you along with your managers to come to those conclusions. Can you help us with what you said to your managers on this occasion about your living arrangements?
What, my domestic living arrangements, or
no, your SDS living arrangements?
I would have said, as I've always said, I was living with a contact in an address in the borough of Hackney.
And that you were satisfied with them? Or how would you have described it?
That I was satisfied with my accommodation. Yeah, absolutely satisfied, yeah.
How did you express yourself to your managers?
About my living accommodation?
Yeah.
Well, because it was the foundation of everything I did. It gave credibility to my backstory, so I never underplayed that. It was very important. And
your wife and children, as you say, is it right, as recorded, that they'd settled in extremely well?
No, I think that's been exaggerated.
What did you say to them?
I said that they'd had difficulty settling. It was a massively traumatic time at that. So I think that makes it sound as if, you know, everything was, well, carry on as normal, but it wasn't.
So would this be a convenient moment to break?
Certainly. We'll break for the usual 15 minutes.
Thank you, sir. Could we have up, please, from tab C 211, MPS 40794? This is intelligence obtained on the 21st of January 1998, bearing your code name and about AFA. If we could have the text expanded, please.
Okay.
So the context appears to have been a decision by AFA to decide to get involved in providing support to the victims of racial attacks. The first passage that I'm particularly interested in is in a few lines down where it says, in the early 90s, they enjoyed an uneasy relationship with privacy at the Greenwich Action Committee Against Racial Attacks, and also had close connections with the family of Stephen Lawrence before losing out in the left-wing scramble for recruitment amongst victim families. Now, when you said they enjoyed an easy relationship, are we to understand that to mean AFA?
Yes, AFA, as was reported there, yes, and this came from Harold directly.
What did Harold tell you about the connections that he or other members of AFA had with Stephen's family?
I think this, again, this is another classic example. This is intelligent. I didn't write this report, and there is an obvious glaring error in that, because firstly, I can't recall AFA, I mean, you can say is AFA having any connection at all with the Stephen Lawrence campaign. However, I did know that they, it was told that they knew activists down at the Greenwich Action Committee Against Racial Attacks, who also would have had connections with the Stephen Lawrence campaign, not in isolation. The thought that AFA had any direct connection with the Stephen Lawrence campaign is ludicrous.
The words "before losing out in the left-wing scramble for recruitment amongst victim families," was that something that Harold had told you, or was that your analysis of the situation?
I don't think he probably wouldn't have phrased it in those words, but that was my analysis and summarising what he said.
What did Harold say to you about other left-wing groups and Stephen's family?
In this particular circumstance, it was only really in connection with, they had no, the Stephen Lawrence campaign, along with various other campaigns, were obviously attractive to other left-wing organisations. And because of obviously the high profile of that particular case, yes, it was an attractive proposition to an outside campaign.
The question is, what did Harold say to you about that?
Exactly how I've reported it there. They didn't have any sort of influence. The only tenuous influence they may have had was through their connections with Gakara, which was presumably in the earlier 90s.
The difficulty I'm having, Mr. Jenner, and for which I am looking to you for help, is you've been very dismissive of close connections with the family of Stephen Lawrence, and yet close connections with the family of Stephen Lawrence is what is written down. So I am trying to understand, first of all, what did Harold tell you about connections with the Lawrence family?
There weren't, yes, okay. Well, there were no direct connections. That was an example of as I put it there, a scramble for influence on that particular campaign, presumably from the early 90s. That was used as an example by him.
Well, why does the report say that AFA had close connections?
This is what I'm saying. I didn't write this report. That's taken in the wrong context. They didn't have close connections with the Stephen Lawrence campaign.
This report will have been based on something that you would have written?
Yes, the notes I'd written, then this is written up by the office.
And the source comment is yours?
Yes, I mean, that's the source comment is mine. Yeah, that's consistent with their avowed aims and intent.
If you had thought that the assertion that Harold or anyone in AFA had close connections with the family of Stephen Lawrence was rubbish, wouldn't you have said so in the source comment?
Exactly, that's what I'm saying, that there weren't close connections. This report looks as though it is, but they had connections with somebody or some people at Gakara.
Oh, forgive me, Mr. Jenner, that source comment does not qualify the phrase had close connections with the family of Stephen Lawrence.
Right, so that was said that because they didn't have close connections with the family of Stephen Lawrence.
Moving on to the second part of that sentence, can I try again? What did Harold tell you about AFA and his own actions vis-à-vis the family of Stephen Lawrence in the early 90s?
It was that campaign, as I said in the sentence previous to that, they wanted to provide support to victims of racial attacks. Now, the prime example of that would be the Stephen Lawrence campaign. So that was the context in which that comment was referred to.
What did he say to you, if anything, about competing groups?
That was a common sort of dismissive attitude to all left-wing groups, that they were jump on a bandwagon.
So coming back to my earlier question, is the phrase "before losing out in the left-wing scramble for recruitment amongst victim families" in fact your opinion? No,
that was the general consensus then. And that's words paraphrasing that, but that was the attitude of Red Action at AFA then. They were dismissive of these left-wing groups.
Was a left-wing scramble for recruitment amongst victim families the way you saw it?
I didn't really had an opinion on it, but certainly any of those groups, family-based campaigns, or particularly around racist attacks, then of course there was a history of left-wing groups all wanting to provide assistance in whatever way they could in order to further their own profile.
And would that view have been shared by your SDS and Special Branch colleagues?
Yes, I think so. That was a general consensus, yeah.
And your senior managers in the Metropolitan Police Service?
Well, that's going a bit wide, but certainly my senior managers within SDS were of that opinion. Yes, I can't speak for outside of that, no.
If we can concentrate now on the paragraph below. It is planned that Harold and Privacy will meet up with the Lawrence family and other families who have suffered racial abuse, with the idea of recruiting them into a broad liberal umbrella organisation with the legitimate aim of promoting public awareness of racial attacks. Did that happen?
No. This is aspirational.
Are you sure that did not happen?
Well, I'm pretty sure that Harold and the main leadership of Red Action, I mean, the thought of them being involved in something like that is just unthinkable in my experience back then.
Were you keeping an eye out in case they did?
No.
would you have reported it if it had come to your attention?
I would have reported it on the grounds I'd have been absolutely astounded had that happened. But it was never, ever going to happen, no.
What was the relevance of reporting all of this?
Again, it's just background intelligence as to the way of thinking of AFA and Red Action. They'd often, at this level, we're talking the top of the organisation here, they'd sort of posture how they would see the organisation going, etc., etc. I mean, you know, to think that members of AFA would try and involve themselves with victims of racial attacks is just beyond comprehension as far as I can see.
And again, looking at the source comment, why doesn't that have something to the effect of in his dreams as the analysis of the likelihood of that actually happening?
That's a sort of frivolent comment I just made. You know, to say something like that just wouldn't have been acceptable.
Well, to say something to the effect that this is very unlikely to happen. Why isn't that assessment in your source comment?
No idea. Don't know.
Can we take that down? And can we now go to Dover on the 28th of February 1998 and the demonstration at which we know you came to be arrested. We're going to start with the lead up to that. If we can have from tab C219 an MPS number 40888. This is an advance report based on intelligence apparently from you dated the 24th of February 1998, 4 days beforehand. If we could have the text expanded, please.
Okay.
And what stance did you take about attending the Dover counter demonstration with those you were infiltrating?
I think I was, at that stage, I was, might have been the North London organiser. So I had a responsibility within the organisation in terms of getting members aware of it and turning out for this event in order to give us an idea of how many people we could actually produce on the day.
But was it always your intention to go?
Yes.
And for what purpose were you hoping to profit from attendance?
Well, obviously there was anticipated disorder, and as an organiser within the organisation itself, I'd been expected to go and keep things together within the North London AFA group.
Did you give any thought to how you would behave on the day?
Lead from the front.
In what way?
It was the actual, with all of these events, you'd often have, someone would, and it wasn't known to me, you'd have a meeting point, so you'd travel down a meeting point, and then you have a forward assembly point, etc., etc. So I wasn't made privy of those until on the actual day itself. But yeah, getting people from one place to another, and then in a position to avoid the police, and then attack the whoever they were, the NF, I think, on the day at the march.
And that position of leading from the front, was that because you were one of the organisers?
Yes.
Could we have next the video, please? It's UCPI 37961, so we can all be reminded of what was captured on film.
The National Front abandoned a rally in Dover over the arrival of asylum seekers from Eastern Europe after clashes with anti-racist demonstrators. The National Front was protesting at the arrival last month of several hundred gypsies from Slovakia and the Czech Republic.
Around 50 members of the National Front arrived in Dover to start their march along the seafront, escorted by the police. After only a few minutes, they were confronted by a small group of anti-racist protesters determined to block their path. As the police moved in to keep the two sides apart, a couple of fireworks were thrown at the National Front. Plans to keep the anti-racist groups well away hadn't worked. As they ran round to try to reach the marchers, the police blocked them, pushing forward to let the march continue. The number of scuffles grew and became nastier. More police in riot gear moved in, forcibly clearing a path so the National Front could get back on their coach to leave. One man was injured. There were 6 arrests.
This was something that police hoped wouldn't happen. Whatever the views about the gypsies, angry scenes like this won't take the heat out of the situation.
There was clearly at least one supporter for the National Front in Dover. Many local people have resented the arrival of hundreds of Czech and Slovak gypsies in their town. But while views are divided on the issue, no one wanted a confrontation on the streets. Valerie Jones, BBC News, Dover.
Thieves have stolen computer programs
Stop
worth
that
almost...
now, please. You were at the front wearing the beanie hat and the bomber jacket, gesturing and saying, come on.
Yep.
Can we now explore events on the day chronologically? You get to Dover. Before the demonstration started, was there any incident?
There was an incident. We met up in a pub on the outskirts of town. It was a pre-arranged meet at the pub. I can't remember where it was, but we were to wait there. It was sufficiently far away from for any sort of police involvement or police presence. And then in the pub, which was full, it was a crowded pub, mostly AFA members, but there were a number of other individuals there. And I saw a scuffle at the near to the bar. There were two men at the bar dressed in combat jackets, and I think one of them was wearing what was described, didn't actually see what was described to be as a Northern Ireland type flag, which is or a Cross of St George type of flag, which was assumed to be an NF type of slogan. So these people were identified by some members, and they were attacked with bottles and an ashtray and injured.
Could you describe the injuries these men sustained?
I couldn't, but they looked pretty nasty. There was a heavy ashtray in the head, and then beer glasses, and etc. So yeah, they looked quite nasty injuries. Yeah.
Who started the violence?
Well, AFA.
Did you ever come to know whether or not these men were in fact supporters of the National Front?
Later, after the event, I did come to know that they weren't in fact members of the National Front.
Were they in fact soldiers from the local garrison?
Apparently so.
From the parachute regiment?
I don't know about that, but they're certainly local military personnel, yeah.
What happened next?
Went out the pub, obviously, exited pronto. There was a route, I think, had already been scouted out by local activists, so we made our way then to the centre of Dover to another pub, which wasn't far from the front in town, a much larger pub, where there were more activists there. It was quite full of, not necessarily AFA people, but certainly anti-fascist type characters. And we sat in there waiting for the off, as in the march to start off.
And then what happened at the off?
Went down to the front because they were, as you could see from the film there, they were marching along a road. The road, it looked like a dual carriageway, and there was a raised bed between these two things. And I was surprised at how far we were able to get before the local police Cotton Don will realise. I mean, there's a big column of blokes charging through the town there, and there's no sign of any police officers there. It was only when we actually got up to where these people were, a part of the march, that we caught sight of them, got anywhere near them. But it was quite difficult by that time because it was apparent that police reinforcements had arrived, the riot people and all the rest of it, and tried to effect a cordon.
Can you lean into the mic? I'm being asked.
Sorry, rolling back a bit.
Can you help us with, first of all, whether the description that we've just seen in the news report paints a fair and accurate picture, and if not, could you explain?
Yeah, I think that's perfectly fair. Yeah, can't argue with that.
Does it paint a complete picture?
A picture of what exactly?
Of what happened?
Well, a part of it, yes, but not all of it. There were scuffles outside of that, yes.
Can you help us with when, in the course of events, you come to be arrested?
I think we got down on the video that you saw there. We jumped down onto the wall, onto the side of the road that the actual demonstration was on, and then we tried to get into or attack some of the NF activists. The police came, and there was a bit of a scuffle, as you could see. They're pushing and shoving. Some of the NF people managed to get around the back of the police into more open ground, which was ahead of where the march itself was marching. We were trying to confront them then, and then obviously the police dogs came along and stopped that. It was quite spread out there, so there's probably about 3 or 4 of them and half a dozen plus myself and other AFA activists who were stopped through the use of police dogs, and I was arrested then.
Did you actually come into physical contact with anybody from the National Front?
No, couldn't get near them. Did get bitten by a police dog, though.
We'll come back to the arrest later, but for the moment, can we go to tab C220, MPS 40936. 16th of March 98, so just over a couple of weeks after the event, report based on your intelligence titled Anti-Fascist Action. If we could have the text expanded, please. This appears to be a report on the AFA's debriefing after the demonstration. Is that right?
Yes.
And then if we look at paragraph 2.
Yeah. Okay.
And is by this stage, you know, it is a reference to the 4 soldiers being injured, a reference to the incident in the pub that you were telling us about?
Yes, it was.
So by that stage, Harold is under the impression they were soldiers. Do you know how that came about?
He was in contact with me at some point. I can't remember then, because he was more concerned at that stage that AFA got the media credit over and above the A&L. That was important, so he was keen to make sure that we made the media aware that it was AFA that was running this particular counter-demonstration. So at that stage, I didn't discuss with him. I think I don't know who told him that they were soldiers. They were just sort of loyalists. I don't think it was even mentioned on the phone then. But also, after I was arrested, he would have spoken to other activists on the ground who'd obviously filled him in.
And why was he of the opinion that their injuries were not severe enough?
I don't know, that's a sort of flippant sort of remark. I think at that stage he's obviously assumed that they were loyalists or National Front. It was sort of these, you know, they're talking about men who are used to extreme violence. You know, and by the sound of it, they just kind of, yes, these blokes have had a whack over the head with a bottle and an ashtray, pub ashtray. Well, that's not enough. And I think that's to put that into context. I can only assume that's what he was referring to.
Was it bravado, or was it because of the Irish Republican sympathies?
In regards to what? To what?
The sentiment that the injuries of the soldiers were not severe enough.
I don't know. I honestly don't know why that.
And then it goes on to say, as a result of this success, AFRA agreed that at future demonstrations, a stewards group comprising Jamie, Clive, Privacy, you, and another will be created with the specific aim of leading an attack on the opposition in order to create confusion. How certain are you that the role of the stewards group was to be active attack?
100% I knew that, yeah.
Can we now go to the criminal proceedings at tab B50 526 752? We start at page 5. And this is the Kent County Constabulary's charge sheet for you in your cover name. Can we take it that you followed the instruction you'd been given not to break cover and were processed at all times in these proceedings as Mark Stephen Cassidy?
Correct.
And you were charged with obstruction of the highway contrary to section 137 of the Highways Act 1980.
Correct.
If we could go to page 4, please. This is a branch note made by DCI HN58 on the 2nd of March 1998 about your arrest. If we could have that expanded, thank you. And I'll give you a moment to scan that, but I am interested in the antepenultimate paragraph, that is to say, the paragraph about the threatening phone call you received.
Mm-hmm.
And is it right that you received a telephone call at Alison's flat on Monday the 2nd of March at approximately 3 o'clock in the morning?
Yes.
And can you recall the terms of the threatening call?
Yeah, well, as it says, you provy bastard. The bloke sounded a bit drunk, and it was a voice I didn't recognise. He certainly had a Northern Irish accent, and it was just hurling a load of insults. So this is 3 in the morning, and I just, I don't know where it had come from, but it was on my mobile phone.
And were you in bed with Alison?
I was in bed at the time, yeah.
With Alison?
Yes. So you heard the phone go off.
And what did you say to Alison?
Well, I'd had this. Did I say to her that I just told her I'd had this call? I mean, I was just surprised she'd had heard it because the phone went off next to my ear. So, I told her the contents of what that phone call was.
She gave evidence to the effect that you went and got a piece of wood to jam the window closed. Did you do that?
Probably, yeah. Or jam the window. I wanted a weapon handy, yeah. I didn't know where this was coming from. Did you say anything to the effect that people who conduct such attacks don't announce them first? Words to that effect? Very possibly, yeah. But I mean, this was completely out of the blue, this phone call. So, yeah, I've speculated on all sorts. I didn't know who it was. And the speculation recorded in this branch note that it might be connected to the injuries sustained by 4 members of the parachute regiment. Is that connecting it to the incident in the pub that you've described? Well, in that reference, yes, it does. But I must admit, for myself, I didn't think it was in connection with that. Well,
let's follow that thread. Could we have up now C221? It's an MPS number 40943. This is intelligence obtained on the 16th of March 1998. And if we have the text expanded, give you a moment to absorb that.
Okay.
So it would appear that within your target group, the AFA, it was thought that threats may be being issued by a disaffected RF member. Is that fair?
This wasn't an AFA contact. This was Republican Forum. I didn't think it
Could we have back up on the screen, please, 526752? Proceeding with this document, it goes on to deal with the threatening phone calls. Further information has come to light with regard to the phone call he received in the early hours of Monday, the 2nd of March. Apparently, a number of other fellow activists in Republican Forum and Republican Sinn Féin also received similar phone calls. It seems likely that a membership list has found its way into the hands of either a disaffected member or someone opposed to their stance on Ireland. Touchy Subject has not received any further phone calls. It is unlikely that events in Dover had any bearing on the phone calls, the timing being purely coincidental. The membership lists for Republican Forum, would they have had your cover address on them?
No, it was just the contacts, mobile contact numbers, that was all.
Are you sure? Wouldn't they need, wouldn't the membership list need to have information for mail shots and things like that?
Not in my recollection, because these were various groups. Some of the bigger organisations had group, obviously group addresses, etc. I was there. I think I was there with obviously the Brian Higgins campaign. So unless I was under that address, I don't know. I can't remember what it was, but certainly as regards phone calls. It would be my mobile phone. I would never get out a landline.
In terms of addresses, though, your cover address was Alison's address, wasn't it?
It was, yes.
And you did not know what information had been leaked to whoever it was or who they was making the threats, or what information they had access to?
No, I didn't know the actual details of it, no, of course
So
not.
you could not rule out that they had Alison's address?
I couldn't, not for 100%, no.
Was anything done to protect the address?
No.
Are you sure of that?
Other than me being here, no. Not as far as I was aware, no.
Did you raise that subject with your managers?
No, because I was pretty confident that the address, nobody gives out a personal address. No, I was pretty confident that wasn't disclosed. But as you say, I could never be 100% certain of that.
Coming back to the question of phones, is it right that in the flat there was a phone in the bedroom?
I didn't think there was, no. There was a main phone. There was only one phone, and that was in the front room, which was attached to the answer phone.
Alison's recollection was that the call came in to the landline on a phone in the bedroom. She took the call and handed it to you. Is that what happened?
She may have handed a phone to me, but it would be my mobile phone, not a landline phone.
When did you first get a mobile phone?
It may have been 96. It was actually Alison. I mean, I couldn't get a mobile phone at that time because in those days you had to have a lot of documentation. You had to have lived at an address for 12 months, utility bills and all the rest of it. And as that became a bit of an issue, she managed to get a phone for me, obviously using her address details, etc. And I just paid the rent on that as we went along.
Could we have now page 3 of this file? And this is a manuscript branch note, again by HN 58, and it records that on Wednesday, the 17th of June, touchy subject received notification that his case at Dover Magistrates Court was not being proceeded with, this being apparently due to the CPS not being ready. And was that the end of the matter?
Yes, as regards that particular court. I went to court a couple of times, but yes, that was the end of the matter as far as I was concerned, yeah.
What was the other occasion?
The second time I went to court. No, that was I went initial hearing, then that was sort of bailed then for another appearance a couple of weeks later. It was the same case, but on 2 separate occasions.
I understand, thank you. Could we take that down now? The Good Friday Agreement, signed 10th of April 1990. 98. How quickly did news of that reach your ears?
Well, it was in the news. It was big news. And obviously, I took an interest in the news that appeared in the media, and so I'd have got it as soon as anybody else did.
It was undoubtedly big news, but it was also highly relevant to your deployment, wasn't it?
Absolutely right, yeah, of course.
Did you discuss that development with your managers?
The Good Friday Agreement?
Yes.
No, I don't think we did specifically, no, because it wouldn't have made any difference to the direction I was going in.
Could you explain that?
Yeah, because when the Good Friday Agreement, when it was signed, again, we were back to the situation we were in 1994. Everything was all done and everybody's happy, but there was still intelligence to suggest that there were people who weren't prepared to give up the struggle. So in terms of my deployment in that respect, then nothing changed.
So no change of direction, no change of emphasis?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I was I had contacts within the dissident Republican groups in London, and that was enough. But remember, there were still the dissidents who were supporting PIRA. There were still people who weren't in agreement with the Good Friday Agreement. As subsequently transpired, we've got various groups on the offshoot of that. So, no, in terms of relevance, absolutely no difference to me at all.
Not even this is a particularly important moment. Keep your ear to the ground on that particular part of your deployment?
No, I don't remember that specifically. No, don't be any less vigilant or more vigilant than you already are. As simple as that.
Could we go to tab C2, MPS 301069? This is back to the question of Noah. Information provided seemingly from you on the 14th of May 1998. Could we have the text up? And I'll be asking you questions about the first two paragraphs.
Okay, yep, fine.
Noah's selection criteria for joining AFA and then Red Action. What was the basis for your reporting that he was looking for the more violent and physically capable?
Because that's exactly the sort of profile person that they wanted to have in the organisation.
How did you know that?
He told me, and I could see that for myself at that stage. That was the profile of persons that they needed.
This implies that Noah used to be violent, so no longer gets involved with AFA's violent side. Did you ever see Noah get involved in violence?
Not directly, but I do know he was a very violent individual.
How do you know that?
Somebody was with him at a venue that I wasn't at, and he was threatening and violent towards another member in a left-wing group. I I can't remember the details, but it was entirely consistent with what I knew of the man.
How violent?
On that particular occasion, I think punches were thrown. He was an intimidating person.
When?
When did this happen?
Yeah.
I can't remember that.
Was it, by the time you made this report in May 1998, was it ancient history or very recent?
I couldn't say, but that was my image of him and what I knew, and having met him and seen him, spoken to him. I mean, the man had been around the scene for decades, and I think he was feared by a lot of people as well within the organisation.
But what I'm interested in is whether this is just an impression you formed or whether you had hard evidence that he had a violent past.
Only from what other people have told me. I've never actually seen him. I mean, he was getting on a little bit at this stage.
And what had people described to you? Anything specific, or was it just reputation?
It was reputational. I mean, you're going back into the 1970s here, so there's a long history.
There is talk in the second paragraph of pushing the Republican message into anti-fascism and anti-loyalism and mixing it with a potent cocktail of violence. Is this general republicanism or Irish republicanism?
Certainly I don't recognise the word. That's not wording that I would use. But my opinion is, and which it was my opinion, yes, the Republican message, and as we've discussed earlier with the IWCA, that and anti-loyalism, and it all goes into the same pot, underlined with the use of violence.
Which takes us to the potent cocktail of violence. Can you help us with whether this is an assessment or whether you actually heard Noah explicitly advocating and inciting violence?
I definitely heard him being ready to incite, or not actually incite, someone to hit somebody, but he was an advocate of violent, direct conflict. He told me that himself, although I didn't actually witness that, but I heard him say that. He was absolutely committed to it.
Can we take that down now, please? And can we have up from C238 MPS 0001098? This is a report dated the 21st of May 1998. Again, your intelligence. It's about an anti-IRA march on Saturday, the 23rd of May 1998, said to be organised by AFA. Can we just expand the content, please? I'll let you absorb that.
Okay, yeah.
So this is very specific intelligence that there is going to be an attack before this event by AFA members on the National Front in a pub involving offensive weapons. Where did you get that intelligence from?
Well, that would have come either from Clive himself or someone close to the leadership of the organisation.
Carrying offensive weapons on the day of a volatile event like this would carry a risk of arrest, wouldn't it?
It would.
And is it your clear recollection that that is what was being contemplated?
Yes, and under those circumstances, the information I had, yes, that's exactly what it was.
What happened?
I don't know. I wasn't involved in if anything did happen, I don't know. Clive was the main person in dealing with. He was younger than some of the other the main organisers. So he would deal with a lot of the information that came in from various strands across that organisation. This he's obviously divulged to me. Hence, there's not a lot of detail in terms of the actual location. Perhaps he didn't know at the time, but he may not have just chosen not to tell me. I don't know if this event actually took place or not. And the reference to the CS gas sprays, that coincided to an earlier report I'd said about it had been mentioned by another activist about obtaining these things. So it was relevant from that point of view.
Would you have remembered if there'd been a dramatic attack on NF members using weapons?
Oh, certainly, had I been there, of course I would. And also, I have to say, had it happened in those circumstances, I would have heard of it, yeah.
So I've got one small point that I would like to deal with before lunch. It's a point, please don't take us down yet. We'll have to come off the YouTube feed for. It will be a short point. Yes. Might I invite you to make clear to those following on YouTube that we will not come back on stream until 2 o'clock?
They will not learn that for 9 minutes or so.
And they will not start watching again until 10 past 2 if you agree to the proposal.
YouTube will now be taken down and we will resume YouTube at 2 o'clock.